All right, Trevor, let's really learn a good nerve Shabbos. Parshas Parah is this week, so I'm going to look at something from Parshas Parah, which is the beginning of Parshas Chukas, Book of Numbers, chapter 19, is the maftir reading, even though there's very interesting things to say in Parshas Shmini. But look at my old videos in Parshas Shmini, please, because I have one of my favorite Divrei Torah, Parshas Shmini from the Kushas Levi. I've said it many times in other videos in the past. They're still up here on YouTube. Please search them and look for them. I don't have time necessarily to put the links in the description or anything, but I might share them on Facebook or Twitter if I have time, which I don't think I'm going to have time. It's Erev Shabbos. So let's do what we can do and not waste any more time. So let's see. Well, of course, we know that the Aryeh, the Heilige Zayda Maharal Prague, my holy ancestor, Maharal Prague, he wrote the Aryeh as a commentary on Rashi. It's called a super commentary, meaning it's a commentary and a commentary. So we have a very famous, or as Mashgiach would say, classic Rashi. Lefi shehasatan v'umo yisa oilam. Right? Because the Satan and the nations of the world are always mourning as Yisrael, they're giving a hard time to the Yiddish Kinder, to the children of Israel, as to what purpose, what reason is there for this mitzvah of the Parah Aduma, the red heifer. And we discussed this already the last 2 days. Yesterday with the Kedushas Levi, and the day before with the Rebbe Melech. We got to go back further in history to Maharal Prague. Let's see what he has to say. So Midivrei Rebbe Seinu Zechron Levracha. So Heilige Zayda Maharal Prague, he says, from the words of our rabbis of blessed memory, we have the Gemara in Yoma Samach Zayin Amud Beis. So that's Yoma 67b. V'kach Perusha. So this is the meaning of what the Gemara says. Shaloi hayol elichtov chukas haTorah. It doesn't make sense. Why does it say this is the statute of the Torah? Af al gam nematzanu b'mekremis harbe lashon chuka b'chukas haPesach. We see other places where it says a chok. It says a statute. This is the statute of the Passover, which we're going to read next week, maftir for our Chodesh, right? Exodus 12, verse 43. Ushmartem es chukoisei v'seroisei. Or in Leviticus 18, verse 8, you should keep my statutes and my laws. So therefore, we see that the word chok appears many places. So why is Rashi bringing this idea that the chok means a law that we don't know the reason for, specifically here, when we already have it earlier a few times in Exodus? Usually when you want to discuss something like that, the first time it comes up, that's when you discuss it. What's special here? And what's special here is that this says Zos Chukas HaTorah, meaning other times says, Chukosai, Chukas HaPesach, but here it's Chukas HaTorah. This is the statute of the law. This is the statute of the Torah, the chok of the Torah. So it says, V'harbe Mekoyim, in many places throughout the Torah where you have this word chok. Kol makom lo yimatzanu lashon chuka b'Torah, rak kan shekosav chukas HaTorah. This is a unique place where it says chukas HaTorah, as opposed that the word chok is connected to directly, not as in Leviticus where it's separate between chukosai and sarosai. Here, this is, meaning this is the Torah. This is what it's all about. Shebechol mokim shene'amar chuka. Is any other place where it says chok or chuka, b'mila al hamitzvah? Everywhere else, the word is connected to a particular mitzvah. So that's the kasha here. That's the question. Why does it say Zos Chukas HaTorah instead of, let's say, Zos Chukas HaParah? right? Why does it say this is the statute of the Torah? It should have said this is the statute of the cow, of the heifer. And then later on it says, Zois HaTorah Adam Kiyamas Ba'oil. This is the Torah. Well, we could talk about that another time. Let's focus on what we have here. But I'm saying in the same chapter, we have this, that it seems to be representing something that's archetypical and representative of the Torah in its entirety, not merely one aspect of the Torah. Again, I'm learning this for the first time. I could be getting it wrong, but this is what I'm getting out of this. But Tamahu, so the reason why it says Zos Chukas HaTorah, says the Aryeh Zayin of Maharal Prab. Ki b'mitzvos v'siyas a mitzvah ein tzorech odam odas tam a mitzvah klal. When it comes to any mitzvah, there's no reason, when you do a mitzvah, a person to know a reason for the mitzvah at all. Raka siyasa bilvad. Just got to do it. That's all you got to do. Ve'ein toila ha-mitzvah rak b'siyasa bilvad. The whole mitzvah depends on the action. You're going to do the mitzvah. Ve'ein boi shum limud. And there's really no, even though all the mitzvahs are archetypes, all the mitzvahs teach us something, but it's not a generality the way it is here. Rak asiya greda, k'sha'oisa mitzvah. Meaning, yeah, you can learn all kinds of things about the mitzvah, so the main thing is just to do it. Just do the mitzvah. Just do it, right? Like Nike. I was never a fan of Nike. I always thought it was ridiculous to spend so much money on sneakers. You know, I like to go to Walmart and get $20 loafers. So I don't have to wash my hands after I tie my shoes. Because my loafers, because there's no laces. You can get more expensive. So Afal Gab Lo Yada Shum Davar, even though you don't know why you're doing the mitzvah, a mitzvah na'aseh shapir. I mean, sure, it's good to know more about the mitzvah, but as long as you did it, it's done. You did it, and that's all. Aval b'Torah lo shaykh lashon chuka. This is the opposite of what we said, right? By Torah, it's not just enough to be engaged in Torah in a sense of not of without any understanding. You can't have mindless devotion to Torah. Ki b'Torah shaykh limud, because you have to learn the Torah. It's not enough just to say the words and not understand anything at all. As totally, again, when I speak of devotional Torah study, I don't mean it in the sense of total mindlessness where you don't know what you're reading, you don't understand Hebrew. That's not what I'm talking about when I'm saying devotional Torah study. I'm saying you read through it, and you can read through it quickly according to Rabbi Nachman and other tzaddikim, even both the Maharal and the Chavas Yor, they say, which is special to me, you find from the other tzaddikim that is special to you, to say that you mekayim the mitzvah, you shouldn't be involved in pilpulim. You got to learn, you got to get pshat, you got to do your best, right? So if that's the case, that at least on some level you have to understand, you have to learn something. Meaning if you put on tefillin and you don't learn the lesson of the tefillin, you put on tefillin. It's deeper if you learn the lesson of the tefillin, but it's good enough that you just did it. But with Torah study, you have to learn something, right? There has to be some mind in it. So that's what it says, that because the Satan and the nations of the world are picking on the Jews about this, that's why it's written in the Torah, this term of chukas, of the statutory element of the Torah, lilmoid l'chosh af b'torah chukah. That the truth is, back to how we said it before, even though you would assume that Torah study has to be in a term of study, and it can't be merely devotional without any in a mindless sense. But still, there should still be this concept of the mystery of Torah, the mystique of Torah, that you don't necessarily have to understand everything in depth, and it's enough that you're making the devotion, that you're saying the words, and that fulfills something. And so even though, like we've said the past few days, Judaism is not known as a religion of blind faith. In other religions, you're going to ask them about the foundations of their faith, and they're always going to say, you can't ask those questions, you just have to have blind faith, right? Judaism, it's not like that, right? Judaism, it's about we have answers for just about everything in Judaism, but we don't really and even we have an answer about the Parah. We discussed this the past 2 days. Please watch those videos. But this idea of the devotional aspect of Torah should be even in Torah study. You can't question the Torah, the teaching of the red heifer. Parshas Matos. That's what it says in Parshas Matos, Numbers chapter 31, verse 21. It says, then we have again, this is a statute of the Torah which the Lord commanded to Moses. As a clay Midian, concerning the utensils from the Midianites that had to go in the mikveh. Elazar wasn't coming as the high priest to teach Torah to the Israelites, but rather to teach a lesson that was a temporal lesson, that was just for this one time. Looks like there's nobody here. I wonder, I don't think I want to go into the mikveh if it's freezing cold though. I'm thinking, there is a light on in here. Are there any cars here? I don't see any chevra here. What about over here? Let's see. Oh, there is. Okay. Arim drying. I'm gonna have to wait till these guys go. Let's make a turn around here. We'll still have those those old posters from us. Wow. So since this was a reason for a teaching, right? Alright, let's see. I'm making a good turn. Alright, let's turn around here. Okay. There was no need, since he was teaching the halacha, there was no reason to give a reason. That's why it says it's a statute of the Torah. Just do it, you don't need a reason. And if that's the case, Hasam Divrei Elazar, there you have the words of Elazar. Shaykhuka. Then it makes sense to have it stated as a statute. You don't need to know the reason for the Torah. That's why it says the statute of the Torah. But by God, may be blessed, there's no concept of chukas HaTorah. So this comes rather to teach a homily. And even though, alright, it says in the Medrash, they warm up the mikveh? There should be steam coming out of there. God did reveal the reason for the red heifer to Moses. Mikol Mokim Kavan Shalei Nasan Tam Zelachol Yisrael, but turn it Yisrael Nitna. But since this reason was not revealed universally to the entire Jewish people, and the Torah was given to the Jewish people, the Chsiv, as it says in Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 4, Torah Tzivalanu Moshe, Moses commanded the Torah. But Namar, and it says in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 44, V'zois Torah shesam lifnei b'nei Israel. This is the Torah that was set before the children of Israel. Shaykh Shapir Chukas Torah. So therefore, there is the concept of the statute of the Torah of Im Toimar. If you're going to say Lama Ksiv Parah Du Maloshin Gezerahim Lofanai, so you're going to ask, why does it say by the red heifer, this is a decree before me? V'aloi kol mitzvos gezerus milafnei Kadosh Baruch Hu. Aren't all of the mitzvos gezerus? Aren't they all decrees by God? As it says, your mercies should go. If someone says your mercies reach to a bird nest, we shut him up. Because he's making the attributes of God to be mercy. And they're only decrees. I was talking about this today, that, why does God permit I said I think it's a heretical idea and I should be shut up if I should say such a thing, that God allowed people to eat grasshoppers, because if the grasshoppers eat all the food, there's nothing else to eat. Therefore, they're all there's the Kushas Aram, that all of the mitzvahs are gezerus from God, decrees. It's not like the Rambam says in the Maharal that they are meaningless, that they don't have any meaning, these gezerus. Because there are gezerus, there are decrees that have a reason. So why are they called decrees? Because they all have a reason. But you shouldn't say that they were just mercy. That God has mercy on the creatures. He does this for merciful reasons. That's not so. Really, God gave everything in the Torah with the attribute of strict justice, because that's what we're judged that we have to do. It's not because of mercy. Even that God tells, the Torah tells us to give charity in Deuteronomy 15:11, and to tithe in Deuteronomy 18:21. All the things that are charitable, all these things are decrees and attribute of strict justice. They're social justice, so to speak.